10 years. But here's the deal. Biden, that's a lot of money, and it is. But if I just eliminate one single loophole, of the $1,600+ billion in loopholes, the one that I would just pick one, I'd eliminate one that costs $17 billion a year. Billion out of $1,600,000,000,000. It's called stepped up basis.
Oh, pardon me for falling asleep, but I actually listened to a lot of that speech by low energy Joe Biden that he gave in New Hampshire yesterday, when he draw, again, incredibly small crowds, as we shall see. It's absolutely amazing that this guy is considered a front runner by very questionable polls. But it's pretty obvious the Democrat establishment is pushing this guy as their champion to actually defeat President Trump in 2020. He's going to have to get his energy way up from what it is now, because as it is, it's almost like the sound waves emanating from his mouth are struggling just to make it to the microphone there. So anyway, yesterday Biden appeared in New Hampshire at two campaign stops. One was in Berlin, New Hampshire, up in the northern part of the state, and then later in a more populous area down in Concord, New Hampshire. So we're going to see just how sparse his crowds were, sadly for him, in New Hampshire. So let's go take a look. Here we are in Berlin, New Hampshire, up in the north part of the state. And yeah, I know it's not very populated, and neither is neither is this crowd. I would say generously 75 people, but let's see, maybe he's reached 100. Also, if you note, see here, these are the firefighters union people. So who knows how many other firefighters union people are there, because they have to be in the crowd that just aren't wearing the distinctive shirts. And I'm also wondering how many of those firefighters that we see there are actually going to end up voting for Trump in 2020. Because after all, they don't have a choice to whether to be there or not. So let's look at a couple more pictures of Joe Biden crowd in Berlin, New Hampshire. Yeah, most definitely under 100 in that crowd. More like 75 is what I figure, but you know what? I could be generous and just give him 100, which, okay, I'll do that. So there's Joe Biden probably wondering, what the hell? Where's all the people at? And let's look at another scene from Berlin, New Hampshire. Yeah, this looks to be before Biden showed up, and it just shows you how small the room is. And there's the loyal firefighters for Biden. As I said, I'm wondering how many of them are going to end up voting for Trump. But yeah, definitely no more than 100 were in this very, very small, I believe it's from the looks on the chairs, this is the City Hall of Berlin. But you know what? Berlin is a small town. So let's see how he drew in more populous Concord, which, by the way, is only 18 miles away from the Manchester, Nashua metropolitan area, which got about 400,000. So let's go and look at the massive crowd waiting outside, forming a line outside the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Union, Local 490, waiting for Joe Biden in Concord, New Hampshire.
But no, he did it, and he did it not.
Yeah, as we saw, there might have been just about as many people waiting online outside of the Union Hall here in Concord as were at his Berlin event, which means there was like less than 100 people online there, maybe 100 at the most. And here's the crowd inside. And okay, it's bigger than Berlin, but you know, it's a much more populated area. This is, again, to remind you, it's a Union Hall, IBEW, Local 490. And I'm estimating maybe 200, maybe 200 at the most, at the most. Oh, and look here, more firefighters. So, you know, here's the thing. It's a Union Hall. So guess what? Maybe at least a quarter to half the people there are union members that have to be there. They have to be there. So let's look at one more picture. It's a panorama of the event, and we can get a much better idea of the crowd size. Okay, here we are. It's a panorama, and let's be generous here. We'll give them 200. 250. Okay, 250. 250. Listen, if Donald Trump in early stages of his campaign was in the Concord area, this would be just a small fraction of what would have been showing up at any of his speeches. And again, a reminder, so this is a electrical workers union. Also here we got a firefighter shirt. So this crowd is actually composed of quite a few union members that were drafted. They have to be there, you know, as part of their union duties. And of course, again, a lot of them will probably end up voting for Trump. But very unimpressive. And again, a reminder to everybody out there, you're not going to see this in the mainstream media. Oh, I want to end by noting that finally, the mainstream media is following in the footsteps, my footsteps, about Joe Biden's sparse crowds. Because on May 28th, there was an article in the Politico, Wondering, by Mark Caputo and somebody else. Anyway, their article noted that despite him leading in the polls, why were the crowds so sparse? Well, gee, thank you very much, Politico, for following in my footsteps on that. And by the way, you'll learn more from watching my videos, because I actually show you the crowds, show you how small they are, and analyze them in detail. But yeah, thanks, Politico, for noticing. You can't expect you to give me any credit for it. Anyway, as far as Joe Biden, I'm noticing that I checked his campaign website out, and he has no scheduled events, as I could see, between now and when the first Democrat debates happen down in Miami. Anyway, in 3 weeks, the Democrat debate starts on June 26th, and then the following day, the 27th. And yours truly will be there live streaming. So if you aren't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, because it's going to be kind of interesting. I plan to be there at least on the first day, and I'll see how it goes on the first day, but I'm going to be there from at least 1 till, I don't know, maybe 5 o'clock, just checking out what's going on. Maybe I could talk to some of the candidates. Might be interesting to see some of the vloggers. I'm sure some important ones will be there, because after all, these are the first set of debates. So anyway, I hope to see you in 3 weeks when I live stream at the Adrian Arsh Center venue for the first of the Democrat debates. See you then.